The unexpected encounter captain. Marcus Kane adjusted his scanner one last time, watching the blips on his screen with growing confusion. The damaged vessel floating in the asteroid field wasn't transmitting any known human signatures, yet something about its energy readings felt familiar. His salvage ship Prometheus had been drifting through this sector for 3 days, hunting for scrap metal to sell at the frontier stations. Another ghost ship, muttered his engineer, Tommy Rodriguez, wiping grease from his hands. Probably been dead for months. But Marcus wasn't convinced. The hull design was sleek, almost organic, with curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. No human engineer would build something so beautiful for war. Yet the scorch marks and hull breaches told a different story. This ship had seen battle. As they approached the vessel, Marcus noticed movement through a cracked viewport. His heart stopped. Someone was alive in there. Without hesitation, he maneuvered the docking tube toward the airlock, ignoring Tommy's protests about contamination protocols. The airlock cycled with a hiss, and what stepped through changed everything Marcus thought he knew about the galaxy. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with skin that shifted between silver and blue like liquid, mercury. Her eyes held the weight of stars, ancient and tired. But it wasn't her alien features that made Marcus step back. It was the way she carried herself. Broken, defeated, yet still radiating a power that made the air itself seem to bend around her. "You are human," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in his chest. It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded, unable to find words. She studied him for a long moment, then something shifted in her expression. Hope? Relief? He couldn't tell. "I am Zephyra of the Vale dynasty," she continued, "and I have been searching for your kind for longer than your species has existed." Tommy dropped his wrench, the clang echoing through the small ship. "Boss, maybe we should—" "No," Zephyra interrupted, her gaze never leaving Marcus. "You don't understand. I'm not here as your enemy. I'm here because my people, what's left of them, need your help. The Dominion has been hunting us across 3 sectors. They believe we are extinct." Marcus felt his world tilt. The Dominion. He'd heard whispers of them in the frontier bars. Ancient aliens who ruled entire systems, who considered newer species as nothing more than insects to be crushed. "Why us?" he asked. "Humans are barely beyond our own solar system." Zephyra's smile was sad and beautiful. "Because you are the only species in this galaxy that has ever fought a war and chosen mercy. Over annihilation. The Dominion fears that more than any weapon." The words hung in the recycled air like a promise and a threat. Marcus looked at this broken alien princess and realized he was about to make a choice that would either save 2 species or doom them both. Outside the viewport, the stars watched silently as humanity's first step toward empire began with an act of compassion. The hidden truth. 3 hours later, Zephyra sat in the cramped galley of the Prometheus, her long fingers wrapped around a cup of synthetic coffee. The bitter taste seemed to anchor her to reality. Marcus watched her carefully, noting how she flinched at sudden sounds, how her eyes constantly tracked the exits. "The Vale dynasty," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, "once controlled 12 systems. We were explorers, scientists, artists. We believed the galaxy was vast enough for all species to find their place." Tommy leaned forward, fascination overcoming his earlier fear. "What happened?" "The Dominion happened." Zephyra's cup cracked under her grip, silver liquid dripping onto the table. "They are old, older than most stars you can see from your home world. They have consumed 1,000 civilizations, turning them into slaves or corpses. When they discovered us, they offered the usual choice: kneel or burn." Marcus felt his jaw clench. "You chose to fight." My father chose to negotiate. The bitterness in her voice could have corroded hull plating. Emperor Valdris promised peaceful coexistence. He lied. The attack came during our festival of renewal, when our fleets were scattered across the dynasty, celebrating with our people. She stood abruptly, pacing the small space like a caged predator. I was on the outer rim when the massacre began. By the time I returned, entire worlds were ash. My parents, my siblings, billions of my people gone in 3 days. Tommy's face had gone pale. How many survived? Maybe 10,000, scattered across the galaxy. Most don't even know others exist. The Dominion made sure of that. Zephyra stopped pacing, fixing Marcus with those ancient eyes. But you, humans, you're different. When your people fought among yourselves, you still had rules, laws of war. You could have destroyed yourselves completely, but you chose not to. Marcus shook his head. We came close enough. 2 world wars, the nuclear standoff, the climate wars. But you're still here, she interrupted. Still growing, still reaching, for the stars. Do you know how rare that is? Most species either destroy themselves or become predators. You became something else entirely. The ship's communication array crackled to life. Marcus frowned at the incoming signal. It was heavily encrypted and coming from the direction of Earth. As he worked to decode it, his blood ran cold. Marcus, Tommy whispered, reading over his shoulder. That's a military frequency. The message was brief but devastating. Dominion scouts had been detected at the edge of human space. 3 worlds in the frontier sectors had gone silent. The Colonial Defense Force was mobilizing, but they were hopelessly outgunned. Zephyra read the message and closed her eyes. It's starting again. They followed me here. Marcus felt something harden in his chest, a feeling he recognized from his days in the Colonial Marines. No, he said quietly. This time is different. How? Zephyra's voice broke. You have maybe 50 warships. The Dominion has fleets that block out suns. Marcus smiled grimly, already reaching for the communication controls. Because this time, they picked a fight with humans who know they're coming, and we've got something they don't expect, someone who knows how they think. As he began transmitting coordinates to every human ship in the sector, Marcus realized he wasn't just calling for help. He was calling for war. The gathering storm. The abandoned mining station, Cerberus 7, hadn't seen this much activity in decades. Ships arrived hourly through the swirling debris field. Merchant vessels hastily armed with mining lasers, colonial defense cutters bristling, with jury-rigged weapons, and a handful of actual military ships that looked like toys compared to the threat they faced. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Morrison stood on the station's observation deck, watching another converted freighter dock with painful precision. His weathered face reflected years of frontier battles, but nothing had prepared him for this. Beside him, Zephyra studied the growing fleet with an expression he couldn't read. 43 ships, Morrison said quietly, against an empire that spans half the galaxy. Numbers don't tell the whole story, Zephyra replied. The Dominion's strength is also their weakness. They've grown complacent, used to enemies who fight like they do, with massive fleets and formal battle lines. Dr. Elizabeth Harper emerged from the station's command center, data pad in hand. The xenobiologist had been working non-stop to analyze Dominion technology samples Zephyra had provided. Their shields are incredible, she announced, but they're designed to stop energy weapons. Physical projectiles pass right through. Morrison raised an eyebrow. Kinetic weapons? We haven't used those in space combat for 50 years. Exactly, Zephyra said with something approaching a smile. The Dominion conquered species that relied on plasma cannons and particle beams. They've never faced explosive shells or missile swarms. Captain Rebecca Torres, commander of the destroyer Valiant, joined their impromptu war council. What about their numbers? Intelligence suggests 300 ships minimum. Spread across 12 systems, Zephyra corrected. They never expect coordinated resistance. Usually they steamroll each world individually. She turned to face the assembled officers. But if we can force them to concentrate their forces, make them commit to a single battle, we die gloriously, Morrison finished dryly. Or we give them something they've never experienced, Dr. Harper interjected, her eyes bright with possibility. Fear. The next 6 hours transformed Cerberus 7 into humanity's first war college. Zephyra shared everything: Dominion battle tactics, ship vulnerabilities, command structures. In return, the humans showed her something that made her silver skin shimmer with what might have been hope. They adapted. They improvised. They took her information and twisted it into strategies the galaxy had never seen. Civilian mining ships became missile platforms, their cargo holds packed with homemade explosives. Scout vessels turned into electronic warfare platforms, their survey equipment repurposed to jam Dominion communications. Even the station itself became a weapon, its ancient fusion reactor rigged as a massive bomb. It's insane, Captain Torres muttered, reviewing the battle plans. Absolutely, completely insane. Good, Morrison replied. Sane wouldn't work against odds like these. As the planning session continued, Zephyra found herself studying these humans with growing amazement. They approached war like they approached everything else, with a combination of careful planning and reckless innovation that defied logic. There's something else, she said suddenly, causing the room to fall silent. Something I haven't told you about the Dominion. Morrison's expression darkened. What? They're not just conquerors, they're collectors. Every species they absorb becomes part of their fleet, slave crews, forced soldiers, living batteries for their technology. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Some of those ships you'll be fighting contain prisoners, survivors from 100 worlds. The weight of that revelation settled over the room like a shroud. Dr. Harper spoke first. We'll need to modify our weapons. Disable rather than destroy where possible. That's going to make everything harder, Torres pointed out. Morrison nodded slowly. But it's the right thing to do. And if we're going to beat monsters, we can't become them. Through the observation windows, more ships continued to arrive, a ragtag fleet that represented humanity's greatest hope and possibly its final stand. Tomorrow, they would face an enemy that had crushed civilizations for millennia. Tonight, they planned to do the impossible. First blood. The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace like a steel plague, their massive dreadnoughts blotting out the stars around Kepler 442b. Admiral Thane Keller watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as 300 alien warships formed their traditional battle line, an unbreakable wall of firepower that had shattered countless civilizations. But this time, something was different. The human fleet didn't form a line. Instead, the 43 ships scattered like frightened birds, diving into the asteroid field surrounding the planet. To Dominion sensors, it looked like panic. Keller knew better. All ships, execute Plan Anvil, he transmitted on the encrypted channel. Around him, the bridge of the converted cargo hauler hummed with barely contained energy. His crew, miners, traders, and colonial defense volunteers, moved with the precision of veterans despite having trained together for only 2 weeks. Zephyra stood beside his command chair, her silver skin glowing with bioluminescent patterns. That meant readiness for battle. They're forming the Crimson Vanguard formation, she observed, watching the Dominion fleet. Standard overwhelming force deployment. They expect you to face them directly. Good, Keller replied. Let them think. The first phase began with misdirection. 3 human destroyers broke from the asteroid field, accelerating directly toward the enemy fleet. Dominion plasma cannons lit up the void, but the human ships danced between the energy beams with impossible agility, their pilots trained on asteroid racing circuits where a single mistake meant death. "They're taking the bait," Zephyra breathed, watching as the Dominion line began to shift, concentrating firepower on the apparent threat. That's when the real attack began. From deep within the asteroid field, converted mining ships launched their payloads, not sophisticated missiles, but simple metal slugs accelerated to incredible velocities by magnetic rail systems. The projectiles passed through Dominion shields like they weren't there, punching through hulls designed to withstand energy weapons. The first Dominion ship to die was a cruiser caught completely off guard. The kinetic rounds tore through its forward sections, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. The second and third ships followed within minutes, their commanders still trying to understand how primitive projectiles had breached their defenses. "Phase 2, Keller ordered. The human destroyers reversed course, fleeing back toward the asteroids as planned. But as the Dominion fleet pursued, they ran into the killing field Zephyra had helped design, a maze of sensor shadows and hidden weapons platforms that turned every rock into a potential threat. Commander Eva Vasquez, piloting the scout ship Phantom, used her vessel's survey equipment to paint targets for the hidden missile platforms. "I've got 3 heavy cruisers moving into Grid 7, she reported, her voice steady despite the plasma fire erupting around her ship. The response was immediate and devastating. Swarms of primitive but effective missiles launched from concealed positions, their simple guidance systems locked onto the massive Dominion ships. Many missed, but enough struck home to cripple 2 of the cruisers. But the Dominion adapted quickly. Their admiral, a cybernetically enhanced being called Malachar, began pulling his fleet back into a defensive formation. "Enough games," his synthetic voice echoed across all frequencies. "If they want to hide among rocks, we'll sterilize every asteroid in this system." The order came that Keller had been dreading. The Dominion dreadnoughts began charging their planet-killer weapons, massive energy cannons designed to crack worlds. If they fired into the asteroid field, they'd kill every human ship regardless of cover. "Zephyra," Keller said quietly, "please tell me you have a plan for this." The alien princess smiled, and for the first time since he'd met her, it wasn't sad. "I do, but you're not going to like it." She was right. When she explained Phase 3, Keller felt his stomach drop. It was brilliant, desperate, and completely insane, everything that made humans dangerous to an ordered universe. "Do it," he ordered, knowing he was either about to save 2 species or doom them both in the most spectacular way possible. The birth of an empire. The space around Kepler 442b erupted in light as the Dominion dreadnoughts fired their planet-killer weapons into the asteroid field. Entire sections of rock evaporated in searing plasma, taking with them what appeared to be the last of human resistance. Admiral Malachar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. These humans had fought cleverly, but cleverness meant nothing against overwhelming force. His tactical display showed no remaining enemy signatures. That's when the Cerberus 7 mining station revealed itself. The massive facility had been hidden behind the planet's largest moon, its reactor building to critical overload for the past hour. Now it emerged like an ancient god of war, pushing itself toward the Dominion fleet on columns of fusion fire. "All ships, scatter," Malachar commanded, but it was too late. The station wasn't trying to ram them. It was positioning itself for something far worse. At precisely the right moment, Chief Engineer Rachel Stone triggered the overload from the station's control room, where she and her volunteers had remained to manually guide the facility's final flight. The explosion turned a small star into being for 17 seconds. The electromagnetic pulse disabled every Dominion ship within 50 kilometers, their sophisticated systems overwhelmed by energies they weren't designed to handle, from the real hiding spots deep caverns in the planet's moon system. The surviving human fleet emerged for the final phase. Admiral Keller watched his tactical display with grim satisfaction as 40 human ships surrounded 200 disabled Dominion vessels. "Admiral Malachar," he transmitted on all frequencies. "I'm Admiral Thane Keller of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. Your fleet is disabled and surrounded. I'm offering you the same choice you've given 1,000 species: surrender or die." The response crackled with static and rage. "You cannot defeat the Dominion. We are eternal!" Zephyra took the communicator from Keller's hand. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of fallen dynasties and the promise of justice deferred too long. "You are Admiral Malachar of the 13th Conquest Fleet. I am Zephyra, last daughter of the Vale dynasty, speaking for every species you have enslaved. Your reign of terror ends today." What followed wasn't a battle. It was liberation. Human boarding parties, guided by Zephyra's knowledge of Dominion ships, freed thousands of enslaved beings from 100 different worlds. The sight of their captors surrendering to a primitive species broke something fundamental in the Dominion's aura of invincibility. Dr. Harper, analyzing captured Dominion technology, made a discovery that changed everything. "Their communication network," she announced excitedly. "It's quantum entangled across their entire empire. Every ship, every station, every command center is connected." Kellor understood immediately. "We can talk to every enslaved population in Dominion space." The message that went out that day was simple but revolutionary. It was Zephyra speaking, her image transmitted to every corner of the galaxy where beings lived in chains. "The Dominion has fallen at Kepler 442b. The age of empires built on slavery is ending. To every species that dreams of freedom, humanity stands with you." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Rebellions erupted across Dominion space. Species that had forgotten their own names remembered what it meant to fight for freedom. The mighty empire that had ruled for millennia began crumbling from within. 6 months later, Admiral Keller stood on the bridge of humanity's first dreadnought, built with Dominion technology but powered by human innovation and crewed by beings from 50 different worlds. The Terran Empire wasn't born from conquest. It was born from alliance. Zephyra, now serving as humanity's first alien ambassador, joined him at the observation deck. Before them, the sight that would define the next era of galactic history. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species, all flying under the banner of a small blue world that had dared to show the galaxy a different way. "Do you think we'll be better than they were?" Keller asked. Zephyra smiled, the expression no longer touched by sadness. "You already are. The Dominion conquered through fear. You're building an empire through hope." Outside the viewport, the stars held infinite possibilities, and for the first time in millennia, the galaxy was truly free to explore them all.